I run round the last corner and see Jonny slumped up against an official. I'm like, oh no, like he's messed this up. He's overheated and blown up.
Oh.
And I have less than a second to make a decision what to do. And obviously you can't really think at this point.
Guys, today's episode is mad. I have a double Olympic champion on the podcast. Alistair Brownlee is one of the most decorated triathletes of all time, and he is one of Britain's biggest heroes when it comes to the Olympic Games. I'm so excited to chat to him today. He's a man that's doing so much good in the triathlon space post-retirement, so I'm really looking forward to chatting to him. Of course, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. There's quite a few of you that are not subscribed, so make sure you are. And also, if you're listening on Spotify or watching on Spotify, make sure you're following and giving it a 5-star rating. It really helps me out and obviously means I can keep bringing you these podcasts. On with the episode. We're good to go? Good to go. Amazing. Well, this is a big one. Double Olympic champion on the podcast. Welcome, Alistair Brownlee.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say congratulations for an incredible career. Who is Alistair Brownlee?
Who am I? Big question to start with. Well, I was born in Yorkshire in a place called Dewsbury to two parents, mum and dad. Grew up in Leeds effectively and went to school as I think 5-6 year old. I was a very hyperactive kid, and one of my childhood memories has been called Alistair Ants in his pants at school. So I had a bit too much energy, and my mum, who'd been a swimmer, took me to the local swimming club. Dad had been a bit of a runner, was keen to get me into running, and I ran at school and stuff, and just had a very active childhood, not necessarily all about sport per se, although I was going to swimming one night a week, going to the athletics club, doing a cross-country running race at the weekend or a fell race, and going for a walk or a bike ride or whatever. So just did a whole combination of active things. And as at some point along the way, as trying everything, my parents were amazing and obsessive about, I think, exposing us. I've got two brothers, but mainly I've got a brother who's 2 years younger than me, Jonny, who we competed together a lot along the way. I'm sure we'll come on to that.
Yeah.
But so we went for a lot of our childhood together, and our parents exposed us to everything. That was every different type of sport, music, academics, and just, I guess, allowed us to try and find out what we were passionate about.
For sure.
I was useless at anything that involved a ball or hand-eye coordination or skill, and fell into endurance sport.
So not a cricketer like most Yorkshiremen.
Not a cricketer, definitely not. I think most of the cricket I played, I remember, picking daisies on the boundary because I'd been put into the absolute...
just put him fine leg and not worry about
exactly,
it. You mentioned your brother briefly there. Fun little fact for you. I don't know if actually you know this. Your brother coached me last year for my 70.3.
Really? I didn't know that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I was coached by Brownlee Fitness for the swim and the bike. And it was great. I did Luxembourg 70.3. I had a chat with Jonny the day before my race. He gave me some really useful info. It was a really great learning experience.
And how was the race?
It was great. Really good. I kind of went into it like having never rode bike before. I bought my bike in May and the race was in July. So literally 8 weeks of cycling, that was it.
Wow.
Scratch to learning to clip in to race.
Amazing.
And it was a 90 kilometer cycle, and it was quite hilly. I think I had about total 800 meters of elevation, so nothing like crazy, but also not pancake flat. And it was great. One of the bits of advice he gave me was it made it feel really real. He said, with a triathlon, especially this sort of middle distance Ironman or kind of, and what would you class a 70.3 as? On a technical term.
People call it middle distance,
Do they?
That's one of the problems with triathlon. Like, people are confused. There's so much different terminology for everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And he said to me, nothing's going to be perfect. Like, you're never going to have a day where the swim, bike and run all go amazingly. And I kind of got that into my head and just tick one off at a time. And especially being new to the cycling world, swam loads as a kid, obviously running quite a lot recently, the last like 5 years. And that was kind of a thing for me, that on the day, the worst part was the run, because it was something that I sort of took the gas off before in training because I was focusing on the other two things. But it was a great experience.
But there's not been a second triathlon yet?
No, I've done a few others, just different distances. So I did a sprint before that, and then I did a couple of weeks back the Olympic distance T100, which was great fun. But less about that. Going back to your childhood, growing up with Jonny, obviously you guys both ended up having amazing careers as triathletes. Was there something in your early years that sort of made triathlon become the thing, or was it kind of just a slow, gradual thing? You both were into running, you were both into cycling, it just kind of came together?
I think very much a gradual thing. As I said earlier, I think it was a combination of me finding the sports that I was passionate about and that inspired me, and everything else falling away. Like clearly cricket fell away very quick. And then swimming and cycling fell away later on, and running probably right at the end, all the way into my late teens. I was doing triathlon and running competitively. And I think probably by the time I was 16, 17, I was pretty much fully focused on triathlon. And when I was 18, I won the World Junior Championships in triathlon. And at that point, I was like, oh wow, that gives me the license to believe that I'm good at this and believe that I can go forward and do well. I actually didn't think I could make a career out of it. I remember being in a careers advice session or lesson at some point and saying, I know what I'd love to be. That's a professional triathlete. And the careers teacher, I think, said, is that even possible? And I said, I've got no idea. I don't know if you can be a professional triathlete. But yeah, I guess at 18, and then I had a decision. I started university, and that put me in quite a good place that I ultimately had to decide, am I going to fully focus on being the best athlete I can be? And that's what I decided to do.
Well, with triathlon back then, because you're 38 now. So when you were doing triathlon, you were moving into that kind of space to really take it seriously. We see now with the new kind of the new kind of surge of popularity in cycling and in running. How did the space look back then compared to what it's like now? Because I feel a lot of people watching and listening are probably still quite new to the space and probably only really discovering triathlon for the first time. How's that main difference look?
I think the difference is unbelievable across a number of different, acts. When I first started triathlon and you'd say, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to do a triathlon. The vast majority of people didn't know what it was, to be honest. And then I think a few years after that, most of the difference probably happened in that era, in the lead up to about the Olympics in 2012. I think people would know what it was, but kind of think it's what, your weird, slightly eccentric friend or uncle or something does at the weekend. A really quite extreme thing, And then I think the two big differences that happened sometime between then and now is, one, people know that it's not just an extreme, crazy thing. Anyone can do one in some shape or form and give it a go, which is brilliant. That really is so important, that people know you can do it for fun, do it with a friend, do it for charity, do it for a goal, whatever. I guess as we were just talking about as a different challenge to do, that is wonderful. And I think this slight shift to people following it, and that is definitely an awareness thing, but it's also a media thing, that people can access it more in social media. It is on television and broadcasters a little bit. We saw it on BBC a few weekends ago, but still not a lot. But going back 20 odd years, if you wanted to follow triathlon, you basically, this makes me feel so old, you had to wait for the magazine to come and, literally read about the results in the magazine. The access to that media has clearly made a big difference. So
when you were growing up and sort of moved into triathlon, were you following triathletes? Was it something that you really, truly followed as well as took part in?
I did follow it. Following it looked very different in the year 2000 than it does now. I know I was following it in 2000 because triathlon was in the Olympics for the first time in Sydney in 2000, and I remember staying up late into the night as a 12-year-old to watch the race. So yeah, I was obviously following it and pretty engaged in it by then. I can't remember much else. I remember probably, getting the triathlon magazine at the time that was called 220 to read about it. And I think that was about it. I think that's the only way you could really follow it.
Yeah, because I feel like now there's so many people that probably follow triathlon but wouldn't have an interest in taking part on it. Or if they did have an interest in taking part of it, there may be a barrier of entry for them for whatever reason. I feel like now it's so easy to spectate these kind of sports as compared to what it was. Like back in your day, you probably wouldn't have got someone following triathlon religiously if they weren't doing it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And not just to pick on triathlon, there's a lot of other niche
with running,
sports,
with cycling,
in the same way. And your opportunity to watch sport was, if it was on BBC, basically. which was the biggest athletics races and stuff,
Yeah.
and the Olympic Games outside football and cricket and rugby. So yeah, I think that's a point that we're just harder to follow.
Yeah, and I think triathlon as a whole, I mean, I've said this on previous podcasts before about, you know, my Ironman 70.3 training and how I was always from quite a privileged spot being a content creator where you can get a lot of stuff gifted to you, and your actual barrier of entry is a lot easier than the everyday consumer because, you know, you might have a discount on your bike or you get your fuel gifted to you or whatever. Triathlon does seem to remain quite an expensive sport. Growing up, when you're, you know, growing up in Yorkshire, what's the kind of, for you, the landscape looking like in terms of, was it quite hard to get into as a youngster, or is it something that was made easier by people around you in terms of, was there quite good access where you were from?
I think I was very lucky in a lot of ways. Just happened to live in an area where there was quite a lot of sport and some triathlon. Had parents that are incredibly dedicated to help us, take us, both of us, to events and all that kind of thing, and many other things. So yeah, I was lucky. There is a barrier to entry, but I think that barrier to entry is much smaller than most people think. Yeah, for sure. If you're going to Luxembourg to do a 70.3, there is lots of barriers to entry. There's travel, the races themselves are expensive, the equipment and whatever. But for a kid or just an average person who wants to go to the local sprint race, you know, we have an events business that is part of our foundation that puts on events, and I think you can do a sprint race for £50 or £60, and the kids races are less than that. So, and you can turn up and do it on a mountain bike or a bike you borrowed or whatever, and you don't really need hardly any equipment, a tri-suit and a pair of trainers effectively, and a helmet. So there is ways to do it really. Where the barriers aren't there that much, and that's one thing we work quite hard on. Our foundation puts on free triathlons for children. We had, I think, 16,000 kids do a triathlon for free with us this year, and the children turn up with nothing apart from a swimming kit and trainers and go and do a triathlon.
That's so cool. I do think we have with social media this kind of, there's almost this glamorization of everything that you need to do something. I saw a video earlier about people hiking in the Dolomites, and it was sort of saying, it was cutting between social media influencers saying, this is what everyone's wearing to go to the Dolomites. And it just cut to some guy making a cinematic shot saying, you don't need it, just go. And it's kind of like, I feel like now on social media, everything's put in your face and you see all the best of the best. You can kind of create this barrier yourself, as you said.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And wow, aren't the Dolomites popular at the moment?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It is the most beautiful part of the Alps in my experience, but all of a sudden it's got crazy popular.
Yeah, it has.
At its simplest, triathlon, swim, bike, run, go to the local swimming pool, go swimming, get out on your bike, whatever that is, go cycling and stick on a pair of trainers, go running. Sport can be super simple. Of course, it can be as complicated as you want to make it as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of looking at everything in life and sport and even performance to the very top levels in two ways. One is, how can you remove all the barriers you possibly can to go out and just do it? Yeah. You know, it's just about doing it. We overcomplicate performance in my experience in every domain I've come across, where we prioritize like perfection over action. Just get out the door and just do it. And the second thing is, just keep going. You know, the hardest events you can ever do is ultimately putting one arm in front of the other and one foot in front of the other. If you can just make that first step and keep moving, actually, the equipment is secondary to that.
Do you think that's what separates the best from the people that try to be the best, is they have this innate ability to kind of just separate what they think they need versus what they actually need? I
think there's lots of potential things, especially once you're at the very top level, that probably separate different people, and obviously the margins get very fine, so margins on different domains add up. But I kind of always look at like this, you know, if you think of whatever you want to think of our preordained ability in a context or genetic or however you want to look at it, it's like a ceiling, and most of us don't get anywhere close to that ceiling ultimately. And the number one thing I think about what determines how close you get to that feeling is just action, just doing it consistently day in, day out. And how do you do something consistently day in, day out? you remove the barriers to doing it. You make it easy to do. You make it very repeatable. You make it habitual, and you just do it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about your brother earlier, and obviously growing up, you would have been training a lot together. Did you have that? He's 2 years younger than you. Did you have that big rivalry growing up where you were both really trying to push it and get to the best level that you could? Talk to me about that dynamic between the two of you.
Yeah, so Jonny is my younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. We obviously came up as children together, competing, or not always in the same like age group races, but apart. And then as soon as we were old enough, racing on around the world as juniors and then seniors, and raced probably hundreds of times against each other.
That's
over
mad.
the years. Yeah, and I think it was quite natural to us. The question I get asked a lot is, what's it like competing against your brother at the Olympic Games? Well, you don't go from sat on the sofa to competing at the Olympic Games. It would race hundreds of times before that, starting in the Leeds cross country league, and then going up to the Yorkshire championships and the national this, and so it's a long process.
Can you remember that feeling though, like when you first stood on the start line with him, whether it is a cross country race at school or outside of school, was there the feeling of, I'm against my brother here and he might beat me? Was there that?
Yeah, there was definitely a bit of that. And as kids, we were super competitive, and sometimes one of us was better, and sometimes the other one was a bit better. And Jonny's described it really well as a bit of a spring. If you got too far apart, it'd motivate you to bring back together, or too close together, it'd motivate the other one to pull apart again. And that's definitely very true. I think there's that competitive element of pushing each other, driving each other on to be as good as possible. There's the learning element. I was very much a kind of maverick, kind of innovative trainer, working out how to train to the best of my ability, and Jonny would learn from that. And then there was So
what you're saying is Jonny learned from you?
Mostly. I'd say we learned from each other a bit, but mostly that way around. And then I think the social aspect, the fact that we were young people from 18 years old or younger, actually traveling around the world, going to these events, going to the Olympic Games, on training camps. We went to 2 Olympic Games together, stood on the start line next to each other at both of them, and had a chat. That kind of being able to share that experience, offload the pressure, talk about the pressure, I think was really valuable as well.
It's mad. It's almost like you're working in a kind of, as well, you're against each other, but you are almost, as we'll get onto, that iconic moment that you had together. You are working as a team in a way, because you are kind of happy for them if they do well, but obviously you want to do well as well. So there is kind of a win-win in an element. You can't really lose when you're fighting against that person that you do love.
Yeah, no, you definitely can lose. I always wanted Jonny to do well, but I wanted to do better. And I always saw it as I wanted to win, and I'd be disappointed if I didn't win.
Yeah.
And then once I won, I'd be disappointed if Jonny didn't come second.
Yeah. Well, that must have been mad for your parents when you both were stood on the start line at the Olympic Games, seeing their 2 boys there. Like, obviously, it was you guys that got there. But there is a massive sacrifice that comes from parents, being able to ship their children around the country to take them to races, give them the opportunities you said you were very grateful for. It must have been mad for them. Did you have that conversation after that first race going, how was that?
I think it was mad for them and very stressful at points. And when you're a parent, I think the metric of success is different as well. Obviously they want you to do well and win, but actually it's more important that you don't hurt yourself or crash or injure yourself, or you're too disappointed afterwards. So I think it was really nerve-wracking for my parents, especially my mum. And there was lots of races, thankfully, and at the Olympic Games where both of us did well and we were really happy with our performances, and that's amazing. But I think it was maybe tougher when one of us had a really good race and the other one hadn't, and then you kind of conflicted. And so being a parent of 2 competitive boys, I think is tough. Yeah,
it must be. Well, let's talk about the Olympics, because you are only one of 2 people that are sat on this podcast who've actually been at Olympics, and you are the only person that's won a medal at the Olympics, which is amazing. I had Andy Butchart on the pod as well, who he was in the final for the 5,000. But age 20, you take part in 2008 Beijing Olympics. That was your first ever Olympics as a whole, as a Team GB member. You came 12th, which is incredible for a debut. Talk to me about that first Olympics and that feeling of getting selected and knowing you're going to the biggest sporting event ever in the world.
So I went into the Olympic qualifying race, which was in Madrid a few months before the Olympics that year. And there's a team of 3 men going to the Olympics. 2 have already been selected, and I'm the 6th person to get into the qualifying race. So 6th Brit. So it's like the chances aren't that good. Anyway, I had an absolute flyer of the race, came 3rd in the race, was first Brit and got selected. So yeah, just a last minute selection, absolutely amazing. I'd gone from a place where only a few years before, I remember, I tell this anecdote a lot, but in 2005, when London won the bid to host the Olympics in 7 years after that, in 2012, I was at school and had heard that London had won the bid. And I remember thinking, that's amazing, but it's kind of irrelevant to me because I'll never be good enough to be there. So less than 3 years later, I was going to Beijing, which was incredible kind of scale of difference. So I went from qualifying the 3rd person on the Great British team, really had no right to expect to come anywhere in Beijing, to by the time I stood on the start line, I was thinking, maybe I've got a shot of winning this thing.
That's
you never know.
Yeah.
And the race went really well for me up till 3 kilometers to go. I was leading the race, and then I completely blew up. 11 people ran past me, and I came 12th. So it was an incredible experience. It showed me what the Olympics was. Triathlon is one of those sports where the Olympics is way bigger in terms of expectation and attention and everything else, pressure, than anything else. So that was good. It showed me that the Olympics is the Olympic Games. I was there in China. Everything was different, incredible experience. But I was stood on a side of a reservoir at the end of the day, on some blue carpet, about to dive in, surrounded by the same people I raced the rest of the year, about to swim 1,500, bike 40 kilometers and run 10 kilometers. So like, this is just a race like any other race. And that was an important, I think, way for me to treat it. And going forward a few years to London. And I think most importantly, I remember being absolutely gutted at the end, being like, I really messed up my chance at the Olympic Games. As I said, I'd watched in Sydney. It was my boyhood dream to go to the Olympic Games. I was like, this is my chance. And I just came 8th. And I remember for a few days feeling really quite down about it. And then something changed. And I was like, well, wait a minute. For 90% of this race, you were the best there. And you're the youngest person in the field. You can run. You've only got to sort out whatever that is, the last 10% of this race, and you can win. And that's it. Went away that winter with that mindset and trained hard. And the year after, I basically won every race on the world stage, and that was it.
Total domination from that point. That's incredible. When you're in China for that, as a 20-year-old, I remember growing up, obviously I'm 29 now. So the Beijing Olympics for me, I would say, is probably the first one that I remember religiously watching and being glued to. What was it like taking part and being part of this massive collective of Team GB? Because obviously we get on to 2012 and you guys were heroes.
It's an amazing experience. Normally you go to a triathlon, there'd be like a couple of coaches there that you maybe didn't even see that much. You'd be going to a random city somewhere in Europe, and the races are, quite big, but not a load of people watching. You'd rock up 1 or 2 nights before, basically go to this place, maybe have a look at the course, do the racing and go home. And all of a sudden, the Olympics, we did loads of training camps in the lead up to it to try and prepare for the heat. I think we were on an island somewhere in South Korea before it, and then flew into Beijing. And there's this whole lead up once you get selected to the team announcement. So, announcing you're on the team, the kitting out day, which is really where Team GB give you the Olympic kit, which is quite as a young person, the kit's a major deal. You know, you got a T-shirt with Team GB on it, and well, actually, you get about 200 T-shirts with Team GB on it. So you like walk out of this place, wherever it was, and I remember having to get the train home with like, 3 or 4 bags of kit.
Yeah,
and just,
Andy was saying this. It's like almost a supermarket, and you just go around with a trolley and sort of like get everything in it almost. Then you just like leave.
Yeah, it's amazing. Team GB do this fantastic job of making it feel really special that you qualify for the Olympic Games, as it should be. And that kitting out is the first probably main touch point that athletes get to be part of Team GB. So, and whatever the sponsors are, it's obviously been Adidas for the technical kit for a long time. You go around a few different ones, for your tracksuit and T-shirts and training wear and whatever else. And then, there could be a suit provider and a opening ceremony provider. And so you go into all these different stalls, and it really is a very, very special experience. And then you feel part of Team GB because you've met some of the other people on the team from other sports. You come across some of the people who work for the Olympic Association, and the people who are there to help you and to help your performance and everything you need, travel and whatever it else might be. So yeah, it's a special occasion, and one of the amazing things about the Olympics is meeting some of those other people from other sports. Whether that's as triathlon, it's similar to obviously the other endurance sports, swim, bike, run. But one of the things I really enjoyed was meeting people from sports that are completely different. You never meet normally like a shooter or something, and being able to talk to them and find out what similarities you have and what differences. And that's a really cool thing about the Olympics. And then once you go for everything and you arrive at the Olympic Village, so I don't know, 4 or 5 days before your race or something. And the Olympic Village is this kind of mystical thing. You hear about it, isn't it? And the experience of going into the village, being welcome to the team. There's normally a welcome event to say welcome to Team GB. Go and visit the dining room, which is like 2 football pitches of different food stalls.
And you're in the village with like not just Team GB. There's loads of different nations, aren't there?
Yeah, so the Olympic Village is really special, actually. The Summer Olympics has about 10 to 11,000 athletes.
That is insane.
Yeah, and
what scale an event.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
The vast majority of them are staying in the village with a lot of the team officials and coaches and whatever. So I do think it's not said enough, and it's really important how special the Olympics is, that you have that whatever it ends up being, 15 to 20,000, I guess, people from, mostly young people from every country on the planet, all basically living in the same place, eating under one roof. I think that is really valuable and it's special.
This is going to sound such a left field point, but how the Olympic Village obviously has a canteen. Imagine if there was just like a food poisoning outbreak, like during that in the canteen. Like what do they do then? Has that ever happened? I
don't know if it's happened, but they go to massive lengths to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I'm sure it has happened at some point, but not to my knowledge. You can imagine that there's an incredible level of hand hygiene and making sure that people don't touch the food and all that kind of thing. And you're told as an athlete to be extra careful and all that kind of thing. Because, I mean, not only is that so many people in one place, there's a risk. Quite often as athletes, if that's the time when your immune system is maybe at its lowest as well, potentially. I think you do have to be a bit careful.
Yeah. So you complete Beijing and you have this amazing experience. The race doesn't go as well as you'd want, but there's only a small little tweak that needs to be made. 2009 rolls around and you're winning everything. You're in the best shape of your life. How do you attack that? Do you automatically qualify for the Olympics in 2012 as a result of your success? And then are you kind of thinking, right, gold is my aim?
Yeah, so fast forward a few years, 2010, 2011, there was some selection criteria in 2011 that I met by doing the races that I was already doing and qualified for the Olympics 12 months out. I think since probably midway through 2009, my goal was to win the Olympics in London. I realised that was going to be my chance at the Olympic Games. I was going to be 24. It's going to be my only chance at a home Olympic Games in a lifetime. So it took on an extra layer of importance. And yeah, that was it. And I think from that point, I started thinking of, right, how do I put all the odds in my favor on that day? You know, I don't want to be, if you think of the 100 races I'm going to do, or 50 races, I don't want to be the person that wins 1 in 10. I want to be the person that's winning 9 in 10 or 19 in 20. So the highest possible chance I've got to win on that day. And yeah, so I was testing things out, testing different training, testing different kind of innovations, whether that was running on underwater treadmills, training at altitude, sleeping in altitude tents, pushing, seeing how much more training I could do, working with other people from other countries to train with and help in races, trying out different tactics, basically everything.
What would a kind of typical training week look like then? If in the build up to London 2012, where goal was the aim, you wanted to be Olympic champion, how were you training towards that?
It was somewhere in the region of 35 to 40 hours of training, plus some gym and massage. A Monday would be swim, run in the morning, sleep, cycle, run in the afternoon. Tuesday would be swim, run in the morning, easy cycle, hard run, track session in the afternoon. Wednesday was just a long aerobic day of swim, longish run, cycle, run.
And they were all kind of like aerobic, just sort of easy paces.
Vast majority of that training was easy aerobic training. You know, out of all the running I did, at my most I was probably running like 120 to 130 plus kilometers a week, in running twice a day most days, 8, so 10, 11, 12 run sessions, say, and I did 2 hard runs. I mean, one was maybe 5k in volume, the other was in 10k, so 15k. So about 10% of the volume was tough. And I really believed in, and still do, in really polarizing your training and making the easy stuff really easy. That cycling was similar, vast majority easy stuff, and swimming maybe a bit more intense with the ratio. But yeah, across the week, mostly just easy aerobic training and try to recover well, eat well, sleep well.
And this might sound really kind of I guess ill-informed in the triathlon space, but when you're in a race environment, and you're swimming, you're doing the 1500 meter, what sort of pace are you trying to pull over 100 meters?
So it's hard to know in what it's like open water. I think you're probably in the men's race somewhere between 65 and 70. Kind of average, I would have thought.
So that's like a 105 to 110 over 100.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what 110 ends up with a 1730, 1500.
Yeah.
I reckon most men's races are that, or the front is a bit faster. It's obviously really, I don't know, because in open water you don't swim 1500 and it's hard to know, but that was I was pretty good at pacing in a pool. Like, you could stick me in a pool, and can't do it anymore, but you could stick me in a pool and say, swim 300 meters at this pace, and I'd do it within a second pretty much.
Is that just a muscle memory thing, do you think?
Yeah.
Almost in terms like you just know the feeling of going that pace.
I spent my entire swimming career was about swimming at a pace and thinking, how easy can I hold this pace?
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew what a pace should feel like, and that's what I would feel like in open water.
Yeah, super impressive. Right, so 2012, you're into the race, and you're standing on that start line. I feel like I can speak for everyone here that experienced that games, and it was like the best few weeks this country has had. And I think I keep seeing nostalgic edits about it, and people sort of reminiscing on that time of how together the country was and how happy and how kind of proud the nation was of this incredible feat from Team GB. Talked about that. How did you kind of harness that energy as an athlete? Because I feel everyone was just ecstatic.
It was incredible. It's easy to put rose-tinted glasses on it, though. But remember, in the lead up to it, it wasn't so positive.
No.
People were like, this is going to be a shit show.
Yeah, it was, because there were loads of unfinished sort of venues and stuff.
I don't know whether there was or not. But anyway, when it came to it, whenever it happened on the opening ceremony, the whole thing just flipped, and everyone thought it was the best thing ever. But yeah, I mean, in part, as a fan of sport, I was aware that this was the coolest thing ever. And the flip side of that was, this is my chance to win a gold medal at a home Olympic Games. I've got one chance of this ever, massive amount of expectation on me personally, because, at that point dedicated so much to trying to do that. And
does that not terrify you?
Yeah, you just have to learn to deal with it effectively. That kind of anxiety, that kind of stress, I think is a really good thing. You just have to learn to harness it and deal with it. And it was very, very different feeling going into it. As I said, we were talking a bit about before about people knowing what triathlon is, and it like the change in its kind of people's knowledge around it. It seemed to all of a sudden go to no one knew anything to people asking me all the time, you're looking forward to winning the Olympics, and I was like, not sure if that's how it works, but thank you very much. And
I'm sorry, how can someone ask someone that? Like if you were sat here as someone who was trying to win Olympic gold, I'm not going to say to you, how's it feel going to win the Olympics, mate?
And right up to the lead into it, and I remember a couple of days before, Jonny and me were running around Hyde Park, and there's literally people chasing after us trying to get pictures. And we're like, this doesn't happen to triathletes.
No.
It's very different. But in the morning before, and I still don't know why we were doing this, but we were sat on our hotel room bed and turned the news on, and the news story was kind of a reporter, I think, walking around Hyde Park interviewing people to say, where have you come from to watch the Brownlees today? And we're just like, oh no, we better not F this one up. But I had a real moment actually of, thinking all this expectation and pressure and everything else, all the build up, all these people. And I went down to the course, obviously went through the checks, you've got to do transition, you know that, do all those things. Yeah. Went out on the course just to spin my legs over and warm up a little bit, check that everything was working on the bike. And I was riding down the route, and I remember, thinking the crowds were a different level to anything we've seen in triathlon before or since. Just like 10 deep, just unbelievable, and just seeing so many signs and hearing so many shouts of, go on, Alan, John, go on, Brownlees, and just thinking actually, there's two ways to look at this effectively. It's like all this expectation, and that could be a negative thing, or all this support, and that can be a really positive thing, and just trying to frame it like that. And thankfully the experience I've got of that day is nothing but amazing.
Incredible. And the actual race itself, was it in Hyde Park?
Race was in Hyde Park. No, Hyde Park, swim the Serpentine, I can't remember, but so many bike laps down and round to Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
And the run round the Serpentine, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, that is mad. And when you're in that race position, obviously you said when you did 2008, swim went amazing, bike went amazing, and most of the run went amazing. You get to the point on the run and you're flying, and it dawns on you, if all goes well, I'm going to win the Olympic Games. What's that feeling like? When you kind of turn the corner and know that you're about to win it, how does that emotion overcome, or are you kind of numb to it?
Well, I was pretty confident I was going to win. And then that's actually not like me. I'm a kind of very objective, analytical person, playing the odds. But I was pretty confident I was going to win that day. I was super fit. I'd prepared everything to the best of my ability. But I'd also, in my kind of strategy, was prepare as well as you can, get to the start line, knowing that you've done everything you can to prepare to the best of your ability to execute that race. And so that was my strategy. But I also thought, never ever let yourself imagine what it'd be like to cross the finish line, because that might then introduce some level of complacency. And that's the same actually during the race. Don't imagine the finish line, because that allows some complacency. So the whole race went perfectly to plan. From about 5 kilometers on the run, I'm running on my own, and the gap behind me is going up. But you still think 4K to go, 8 seconds gap, that's 2 seconds a kilometer. You could get it back. But I remember, I think I got to 2 kilometers and the gap was 12 or 15 seconds. And I was like, I've won, basically. And then, but keep pushing. And I thought, I'm going to keep pushing right to the last 100 meters. And I remember going down the carriageway drive in Hyde Park, the last kind of kilometer or less, and still, seeing people that I'd run with all friends from school leaning over the barrier, cheering me on, really, really cool. And then slowed down and kind of crossed the line. But yeah, I don't remember that much. Luckily, I then obviously managed to win in Rio as well. And I very consciously thought in Rio I had actually a kind of easier race to get there. And I thought, right, this is the second time you're in this position. It's probably not going to happen a third time. Actually really give yourself the chance to slow down and enjoy it. And in that case, I did.
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah, London was a blur, crossed the line. And then all of a sudden these emotions, hit you because you haven't, as I said, I hadn't allowed myself to plan for that. And the first one is very much relief and just thank God that's over with, and it went right. And then everything else, happiness, joy, pride, and waited for Jonny to come and he came third.
That's insane. Like the fact that you got gold at Home Olympics and then your brother gets a bronze is insane. Like that must have just been afterwards, that moment where you looked at each other and went, who would have thought? We've done this.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of that. Jonny actually came across the line and pretty much collapsed and was a bit man down for like half an hour or something until he came round. I'm just your life is, I know it's a cliche, but your life does change after that. You cross that line, and yeah, in normal triathlons you might speak to a couple of media here and there, the same people from this magazine or whatever, and all of a sudden you do like 100 interviews on a like a snake, and you obviously stand on the podium, which is the most special thing ever if you've been a childhood athlete like me, and managed to, I think the thing I am the only person to do is manage to share the same joke twice with my brother on Olympic podium, which is don't cry. So that, I think we are unique in that respect. And
a very small statistic.
And then you're doing like thousands of different interviews and TV shows and a crazy few weeks.
Yeah, mad. And I think that the pride you must have from that is something that you will never forget. But then to do what you did and go back to back and make history being the first person to ever win back-to-back triathlon gold medals at the Olympic Games, that must have been an unbelievable one. Obviously, you said you wanted to give yourself time to enjoy it, but you're in Rio. You've just swam off the Copacabana beach, come in, you've done your cycle, you're on that home straight. You're like, oh my God, I'm back to back.
Yeah, it was very special. And to be honest, going into Rio had been harder in lots of ways, and I was less confident. I didn't know that I could win. I needed a little bit of circumstance to go right around me for it to happen. So it wasn't as clear cut, but from early on in the race, I had a very a very clear cut plan that I'd practiced with Jonny and a few of the other guys, that we were just going to swim hard and then do everything we could on the first bit of the right to split the bike and make sure that guys who could potentially run quicker than us weren't in the race. And then I think after 5 kilometers of the bike, we'd managed to do that, and I thought, wow, that's it. This could be done. And on the run from a few K in, I was pretty confident I was going to win. So it's funny. It's just the thing in sport, isn't it? It's funny. There is a bit of circumstance in there. It's funny how things play out in real life. And Jonny was in second place. The most incredible, obviously, situation for it to happen. He was well clear of third place, and I had time and consciously had time to not literally stop, although I think I started walking, but really slow down and think, this is going to be the last time you can ever be about to win Olympic Games. Enjoy it a bit.
Yeah, that is wild. And when you're preparing for that Olympics, you obviously you didn't have a feeling you could go back to back, but do you, off winning a gold, think, right, my training worked for this, I'm just going to do the exact same thing? Or did you change it going into it with that sort of defense in mind?
So I did think it was possible. Just the difference in, by the time I got to the start line in London, I was, this race could be run 20 times, and I'm going to win it 19 times. Like, I was pretty sure. Whereas in Rio, I was like, this race is going to be run 20 times, and I don't know, I might win it 11 times or something. The odds are in my favor, but not like they were. So I knew it was possible. And what did training look like? I mean, it was a bit hampered with injury, so I was constantly battling a bit with how much running I could do. But on the basis of it, very similar. At that point, not only did I kind of know what worked, I also kind of knew how to adapt my training going along. And yeah, my training week looked very, very similar to 4 years earlier. Yeah, sessions maybe looked a little bit different, but the basis of it, which is volume and the routine, were almost identical. I think even the kind of setup of we'd gone away, spent 4 or 5 weeks training at high altitude in the same place in Switzerland, and then to the race in a very kind of strategic manner was the same.
And when you're kind of stood on that start line, having done all this training and stuff for the Rio Games, what was the difference in mindset that you had as an athlete, having already sort of got the gold? Was there almost like a less pressure on yourself? Did you feel like you could enjoy, you said you could enjoy the end more, but like the actual pre-race and, you know, that moment of being like, right, we're here to do this. Was there a different feeling to that as you'd won it before?
I don't think so. No, I think I've always thought the real pressure, the most important pressure, is the pressure that you put on yourself. And I put exactly the same amount of pressure on myself to win in London and as I did in winning Rio. Yeah, the external pressure was different, but that's not as important. And I put that pressure on myself for sure.
Incredible. Let's go back to Jonny and your brotherly instincts taking over. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say you provided one of the most iconic moments in British sport, you and your brother. That moment where he pretty much collapsed on the lead up to the finish line at the World Triathlon. It was in Mexico, wasn't it? In 2016, straight after the Olympic Games. And you picked him up almost off the floor and carried him to the finish line. Talked about this whole experience and how that sort of played out for you as a brother, seeing that and that instinct taking over to sacrifice your own race to help your brother.
Yeah, so it was just after the Olympic Games, and obviously the Olympics had been run and we came first and second in it. And then the Triathlon World Series is a series of normally 5 races around the world, and Jonny was leading the series, or could win effectively going into that last race, which has more points. So the series final in Mexico, I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks afterwards or something. And so we knew what Jonny had to do to win. And swim goes perfectly, bike goes perfectly, run goes perfectly. And with 1 kilometre to go, Jonny's winning by 20 seconds. I'm in second, third place with one other guy, a South African, thinking, this is perfect. You know, I won the Olympics. Jonny's about to win the World Championships. We're on a Mexican island, you know. It
was in Cozumel, wasn't it?
Cozumel, yeah. Very looking forward to sitting on a beach after this and having a cold beer, to be honest. It's been a long year, and this is very hot.
A nice Modelo, mate, on the beach,
and I run around the last corner and see Jonny slumped up against an official. I'm like, oh no, like he's messed this up. He's overheated and blown up. And I have less than a second to make a decision what to do, and obviously you can't really think at this point, think straight, so just grab him and start running towards the finish line. And I remember 2 thoughts in that period. One is getting around the corner and thinking, oh shit, this is further than I remember, this might take a while.
It does look a long way.
It is a long way. And then the second thought is, oh wait a minute, if I can get him to the finish line before we get caught, he might still win the world title, and we're still going to be on the podium. I can salvage something here. Anyway, so I get him to the finish line, push him across the finish line, and all hell breaks loose. Like the South African guy has won at this point. He sprinted off and won. Jonny is unconscious on the floor and gets taken to emergency medical care and is basically in emergency, but covered in ice, you know, giving him a drip and everything. And because you overheat and it's quite a serious situation.
Yeah. Was it very, very hot there as well?
Very, very hot, super humid, really hot. And yeah, then everyone who comes behind, you know, some of the athletes are like, what have you done, you pair of cheats? And some of the athletes are like, that was an amazing thing. So I nearly got disqualified, and the Spanish team put in a a complaint, and so I had to go up against the disciplinary panel and explain myself. Nearly got disqualified. Jonny's unconscious. My poor parents are at home panicking. So just all pandemonium breaks loose, you know.
One of the main bits of commentary I remember, it was the woman, she goes, is this even allowed? And you've got him over your shoulder, more or less. So why was it allowed, and why did they, deem that it was fair game?
Well, it's a good question. Basically, it's deemed it was fair game because there wasn't any rule that said an athlete in the race can't help another athlete. That rule now does exist. They actually put it in the year after to say.
They probably looked at that and went, shit, we should have had that rule in there.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's a very unique situation where another athlete would slow down effectively to help another athlete. And so, I think as much as they maybe would have liked to, at the time they couldn't do anything about it. There wasn't any rules to say so.
I also think from a human perspective, though, you've got to be a certain character to look at it and see the negative before the positive. Yeah. And I mean, everyone looked at that and went, that's incredible. That's brotherhood.
Yeah, I think so. And, ultimately, it was just a very instinctual thing. You know, people asked me, why did he do it? What were you thinking about at the time? All those things. And the real answer to that was, at the time, when you got 1 second to decide to do it or not, and it's the end of a Olympic distance triathlon in crazy hot conditions, you haven't really got the thought power to make a weigh up a debated decision on it. So it's just instinct.
So what actually happened to Jonny? Because have you ever been in that position where you kind of almost, you see it on London Marathon finish line all the time, where people collapse and they can't control their legs and things. What is actually happening there?
Yeah, I had been in that position a few years before, and Jonny actually ran straight past me at the time. And but there's a number of it can happen for a few different reasons, and sometimes at the end of the Olympic marathon, it is just pure fatigue or whatever. Yeah. In Jonny's case, he overheated, and you're bored as you're exercising. Obviously, you produce a lot of heat. You're actually, for every unit of heat energy to move you forward, you produce about another 3 or 4 as heat. So the vast majority of energy you produce is heat that your body either gets rid of or it heats the body up. Your body temperature can go up to you normally sit around high 36s. We probably both are now. You can go up to high 39s, 40, and then at some point, effectively the part of your brain that is controlling the homeostasis, so the keeping the body in balance, realizes that it's getting too hot, because as it gets hot, literally the proteins denature, so your body starts to break down. Okay. And at that point, it effectively shuts off your ability to move. And once that happens, you go to this gait, this movement style that's unconscious, just getting people forward, and that's kind of what you see in that situation.
So interesting, because I mean, as a viewer who didn't understand triathlon at the time, you wonder how far is a human able to push themselves before their body literally shuts down, because usually it's your mind that quits before your body. So it is mad, and honestly was one of the most incredible things to see, and it's something that will be talked about forever. So yeah, thank you for bringing us that moment, because it's great as a sports fan to see that. Let's talk about retirement, because obviously after you win in Rio, from that point, when do you kind of decide to sort of hang up your boots in the triathlon competing space and focus on other ventures?
So yeah, after Rio, I mostly then focused on long distance racing. I did half Ironman and Ironman and T100, and then retired 2 years ago now. I guess in the few years before I retired, it really gave me time to think about the kind of things that I wanted to do post-sporting career, and which is a number of things. I have some of my own businesses. For a long time, I'd invested in various businesses. I kind of like the idea of investing and supporting businesses that is anything to do with helping removing the barriers to people being more active. So nice. Kind of as we were talking about earlier.
Are some of those businesses public knowledge that you've invested in?
Yeah, things like a cycle clothing business called Spatswear, which was overshoes and gloves, like hot, cold weather cycling stuff.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's done well. A platform called Gojo, which is like a corporate health well-being platform, and then kind of really full on in the last year, TrueFuels, which is a sports nutrition business, which I've been working really hard at. And the idea around that was twofold. One was my own experience, which was kind of struggling with nutrition over long distance racing, and realizing just by simplifying the product and simplifying the process, you could just get to a place where you can just give good, solid nutrition advice to people. And the second one was there's just so much noise around the space, and the science around sports nutrition isn't that complicated. There's not that much of it. And I just thought you can deliver advice so most people can have a really good experience with sports nutrition. It's not the thing that holds you back. It's not the thing that ruins your race. Because I think for most people, if a endurance event goes wrong, whether it's swimming, cycling, triathlon, running, it probably is because of nutrition. And that just shouldn't happen. It should just be a solvable problem. And that was the idea behind TrueFuels. And we have 3 products now: a gel, an electrolyte, and core control, which is
I've had your gel.
Have you?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it was good.
Well, the idea is that it's super simple, and by removing additives, flavorings, and anything else in it, you reduce the chance of stomach problems, help it absorb quicker, and it's just a safer, easier product to use.
So with your retirement, you mentioned about the middle and longer distance triathlons that you did. Something you did recently, well, literally last week, that absolutely fascinated me was the Norseman Triathlon. Now, this is, for people that don't know, one of the most technically difficult races on the planet. How was that? Talk to me about that race.
So, yeah, since I retired from professional sport, I've seen it as just this amazing opportunity to as long as I can stay fit, which my fitness is waning, but I'm just about managing to do all right.
You said something interesting, actually. You said you don't, I got the exact quote here. You said that you don't train, you exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's a bit of a joke, but I mean, I count training as being focused and like disciplined, I guess, and structured about what you do. And I've got hardly any structure. I mean, I go out when I want to go out. I never do a session in that, I'm never going to go out on the bike and I'm going to do 10 by 3 minute reps today. I go out and ride my bike. And sometimes I go out and ride hard up hills, and most of the time I just go out and ride my bike. It's a bit of a joke, but it is also kind of true. I've been doing a bunch of challenges, from long distance triathlons to trail runs to gravel bike races to even ski mountaineering races. And I did Norseman last weekend, which is amazing. I mean, it's probably been at the top of my bucket list as an event to do for a long time. It's a Ironman distance triathlon, so a 3.8k swim in a Norwegian fjord. We get taken out on this ferry in the morning, and you jump off and swim in the fjord. A 180 kilometer bike that's really mountainous, that's every weather condition you can imagine. I mean, we know how hot it's been in the UK this summer, but I think probably you climb straight up about 1,200 meters on the bike. And
it's got like 3.5k elevation, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of climbing, but you do 1,200 straight up, and you go from, it was 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 or 12 degrees down by the fjord to, I think it was probably 0 at the top. So quite extreme. And it was actually really good. I got lucky, really good weather conditions. And then the run is, and the bike takes a long time. It was over 5 hours for me because it was just slow roads, and I'm not as fast as I used to be. And
sorry to interrupt. With your bike, so what speed are you doing the swim in those conditions?
The swim took me about an hour, so that was about, I think it was probably accurate. So probably about 130 per 100 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't even swim anymore. So the swim.
You still got it, man. And then into the bike, that treacherous bike ride.
Bike is tough. Yeah, I think it ended up 33 or 34 kilometers an hour. For those that know watts, it was 275 watts of average over the bike.
Wow.
And then the run the run's 25 kilometers, basically along a beautiful fjord. So you're going west to east in Norway, so across almost the country. So it's really cool. Like, see some amazing views past glaciers. All
Is
sorts.
It point to point?
Point to point, yeah.
Okay.
The whole thing is point to point. Like, swim is a ferry to the shore, bikes point to point. Run is, from the end of the bike, run along this big fjord, really beautiful, to 25 kilometers, almost pan flat, and then 17 kilometers uphill. And I think 12 of those are on the road. And bike, like 12, it's like an alpine climb, like 9-10% gradient, most of it, just straight road up a mountain. And then the last 5 kilometers are off-road, proper, like quite rough scrambling to the top of this mountain called, that I can't pronounce, but about 1,800 meter high mountain in Norway. Yeah.
Incredible. And that must have been some experience.
It was really, really cool.
Wait, didn't you come second?
Came second, yeah. I nearly got caught for the last kilometre. I could see the guy in third, like, catching me up on the zigzags up this mountain,
really?
And had a bit of a sprint finish at the end, but held on.
The guy who won did it back to back, didn't he? He won 2 years in a row.
He was very impressive.
Yeah.
And in the end, he was the best part of half an hour faster than me, so different world.
And how long did your marathon take at the end?
I think 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
So I was 4:10, 4:15 pace average on the flat bit. And then, so, that first 25k, whatever that ends up being, I think like an hour 45 or something. And then 2.25 hours uphill.
Oh my word. That's insane. Well, obviously for you as a kind of a retired triathlete, keeping yourself ticking over and keeping yourself busy in a way must be something that you need, because surely you can't go from training your whole life and dedicating yourself to a sport to almost just not doing it. So how does a normal week look for you if you have somewhat of a structure to it with your exercise?
I think keeping exercising is important for me. It's just fundamentally so much about who I am, and also it helps me feel good and be cognitively good for being able to do what else I want to do as well. It completely depends. This morning I did a very 30-minute run at home. I could be at home on a weekend and do a 4-hour bike ride. So I actually don't have a schedule that much. I tend to do long rides at the weekend, ride in the week when I can fit it in, and run, around that. If I'm traveling, obviously I run more, and that could be a 30-minute run. I'm normally in London, quite a couple of days a week, and one of the great joys is I run in Hyde Park and get to run across the finish line where I won the Olympics at, which I think which is so cool. Not many people get to do that either, I don't think. And so I get to do that. Sometimes if I'm traveling out, sometimes I'll do a long run if I can fit it in, go out for a couple of hours. But it's really, really variable.
Are there any things that you want to tick off still? Obviously, you said the Norseman was like a big bucket list event for you. Are there any other things that you really want to do?
Oh, I've got so many things I want to do. Yeah, I'm doing the wine marathon. Have you heard of that? Marathon de Medoc.
Oh, mate, I want to do that so bad.
Yeah, I'm doing that. That's in early September.
It sells out so quick.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Are you going to race that?
No. I'm doing it with a really good friend of mine who was a race walker. And,
nice.
We're not allowed to miss any aid stations, but we're going to run to half of it, and then we're going to chill out and
Sick. Well, you said about aid stations there. That's just reminded me. Norseman, there's no aid stations, is there? It's all self-supported.
Well, your support. So I had a couple of people supporting me that basically gave me whatever I wanted when I wanted it.
And does that mean with transitions then they have to take your bike?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have to sort everything out. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's actually really hard to support. Yeah. Yeah. Really, really tough. And yet someone has to run with you on the last bit because you're on this exposed mountain as well.
Yeah, so, I've seen that. I've seen all the finish line clips. People have got teams with them and stuff. Sorry, Marathon de Modoc. You got that coming up. Are there any other big ones that you haven't been able to lock in yet that you're keen to?
I'm doing something called the Three Peaks Cyclocross in September, which is a bit more niche, but probably I think it's the oldest cyclocross race in the world, and in Yorkshire. So it's like a kind of legendary local race for me.
Tom Pidcock used to be quite big in the cyclocross space, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, still is probably. And I would like to do. I did a bit of ski mountaineering race this year. I want to do some more of that. Really enjoyed that. I'd probably next year I'll try and do some longer trail running style thing.
Yeah.
I've done some endurance bike racing. I did one this year called Dale's Divide, which was 600 kilometers off-road in across northern England, and took me 36 hours. I quite enjoyed that, so maybe a bit more of that too.
Yeah, cool, nice. We mentioned about kind of like the future of triathlon and you know, how it's changed between when you were competing versus now. Obviously, I would like to say you had a similar impact in 2012 the way Alex Yee had in Paris at the most recent Olympics, you know, winning gold for Team GB. Is he someone that you speak to a lot, and has he come to you for advice and stuff kind of coming through the space?
So yeah, Alex is, I guess, the generation younger than me, and has been incredible successful in that. That gold medal winning race in Paris was just amazing.
Unbelievable,
just winning in the last few 100 meters, and I just think it's so important that we just keep having great role models and people keeping triathlon at the front of people's minds in the UK. So I think that's good. Yeah, I do know him, and I know him reasonably well. No, he's never really come to me for advice per se, but I think that's the thing with top level athletes. I didn't really ask advice of anyone. You kind of, you have to, in a way, you know, forge your own path and work out how to do it yourself. That's all part of who you are. I think you have to be that kind of mindset.
I also feel like when you're someone who's at the top of their game, you have this innate ability to shut out noise and stuff. So you're probably, the last thing you're looking for is other people's input in a way.
Well, you get so much noise already. Yeah, I don't know whether you shut it out, but you get so much noise from, you know, whether it's coaches, other people that help you, physiologists, scientists, whatever, parents, family, friends, right to the person you meet at the shop while you're buying a pint of milk. You know, you get noise, and I think the skill is, how do you weight that noise? You know, how do you work out what's an interesting opinion, and how do you act on it, and how do you discard the other ones?
Yeah, for sure. Well, final thing I want to go through with you. I messaged you on your way up here. I did this on my previous few episodes, asking the guests their room 101. So this is essentially something that you want to get rid of, and it can be petty, it can be very justified. It's just something that you have a real kind of distaste for.
I hate... I know this is a real niche out there thing. I hate Tupperware, like food in plastic.
What, just in general, like buying it in plastic, or the stuff you do yourself?
A bit weird. It's like, actually, if you buy something in plastic, like, I don't know, you go and buy a salad from Brett or something, that's okay. But like, saving food in Tupperware is like, no.
Yeah, and it kind of stains it, doesn't it? It has that sometimes.
I don't know, I don't use it.
Yeah. That's very good. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an amazing chat. I've really learned a lot, and thank you for all your insight, and it's been great to hear your story. Guys, obviously go check TrueFuels out, the Brownlee Foundation as well, the events that you guys have coming up. There's one actually in Wales, in the Lake District,
isn't there? Yeah, you're going to come do it.
Well, I got the email from Michael, and I was looking, I was like, I have that weekend free.
Do it. Come
Mate,
do it.
It sounds heavy. It sounds hectic.
But it is genuinely one of the best races in the UK. It's that first weekend in September. It's not too long. It's like a mile swim, 30-odd mile bike, and then a 10-mile run, but you go up and down Helvellyn, which is England's third highest mountain. But it's great. It's like, takes you to somewhere you might not go otherwise. It's beautiful, challenging, really, really cool race to do.
You know what? Yeah. I might give it a go.
Do it.
I'll give Michael an email and start working it out, because it does sound fun. I've never been to the Lake Districts as well.
It is amazing.
So yeah, it'd be great. Look, thanks so much for coming on once again. Guys, go check out everything. I'll leave Alistair's links in the description, and I will catch you next week for another episode. Take care.